Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is trainer education, and the title is Expand Your Knowledge. So with the craziness created by the coronavirus, but you can't say that 5 times fast, our normal routines have been quite changed. So everybody in the personal training world is struggling to find a new way to connect with their clients, to grow clientele, to keep the clients they have. So as trainers, we've kind of covered in our most recent podcast for the trainer education ones some tips on how to handle the current craziness happening. So quick review on some of them is on podcast 569, titled Break Your Bubble. We've encouraged you to expand how you program for training. So in that one, we talked about how we may have typically been programming for clients that went to the gym, but now all of a sudden they're training at home and with various equipment. So we talked about resources and ways to think about how you can kind of expand on your training abilities given a change of environment for your clients. In podcast 573, titled Think Outside the Box, we encourage you to look into motivation and accountability, as those will definitely become factors for client adherence. So typically we'd have to tell our clients kind of what to do in terms of training. Maybe you'll give them some nutrition tips here or there, but typically we tell them what they need to do, and we kind of assume that they're just going to do it. So the doing of it is going to be a much bigger challenge now because of the change of normal routines. People are going to struggle with motivation because of their uncertainty and worry about everything that's happening. They're also going to struggle with accountability because if they're no longer meeting you in person as a trainer, they don't have somebody standing there waiting for them, so they're more likely to lay on the couch and kind of skip their workouts. So in that podcast, Think Outside the Box, we talked about ways that you can improve client motivation and client accountability to improve their overall adherence. So those are two helpful ones if you haven't checked those out. And then another two that we did, most recent ones, is podcast 577, titled Prioritize Your Own Needs, and podcast 581, titled Improving Daily Productivity. And those were focusing on you, the trainer. So you have to be in a healthy state to be able to make other people healthy. So we all have that phrase, or we've maybe have heard of that phrase, fill your cup first. So you have to take care of yourself to be in your healthiest, happiest place. So then you can take care of other people and get them to that same kind of healthy and happy place. So make sure you take care of your own needs. What I wanted to cover today that is kind of building upon those past podcasts is the idea that you may need to expand upon your knowledge base given the change of what's going on in current society. So we want to take this opportunity to provide more services to our clients. The more services you can provide, the more useful you are to them, and you're more likely to keep them as clients. You're also more likely to gain new clients, and you're better able to continue to live out what your main goal is to affect people positively through physical health. So if you're a trainer and you're listening to this podcast, you undoubtedly do care about your clients, and you want them to be the healthiest, happiest people they can be. And that's awesome, so good for you. And one of the ways you can continue to do that is by continuing to expand upon what kind of services you can provide. So I want to give a little bit of a history about how I kind of developed the breadth of services that I provide, and let you see kind of how it kind of grew over time for me, and then encourage you to take some of these kind of same leaps in your own experience. So when I first started personal training, I actually did it without pay. I was training friends, and we were just training at the high school gym, and our group of 3 or 4 started growing too large to where I would train with my closest friends first for an hour or so, and then I would have people meet afterwards, and I'd take them through the workout that I just went through. Well, as you can imagine, that started growing into me being at the gym freaking all evening, and I didn't really want to keep doing that for nothing. So I did go ahead and start kind of charging my friends. I know that sounds crazy, but they didn't mind because I took the time to create fun workouts, come up with new kind of exercise combinations. That was my passion, and my excitement was the actual training itself. However, very quickly, they started asking other questions. They wanted to say, like they were saying, like, man, I'm coming to the gym all the time and I'm not really growing. Or I might have a friend who's overweight and they're like, I know I want to come to the gym and build muscle, but how do I lose some of this fat? So they started asking more and more questions about nutrition. Then very quickly, I started working with people at home. So I used to have a pair of power block adjustable dumbbells that I would take in the trunk of my car and actually drive to people's houses. And I would train them with the equipment that they had at their house. But of course, with that came a lot of nutrition questions. So I very quickly realized that although my passion was in kind of exercise and training itself, that what the people I was helping did with their nutrition was going to have a major impact on the results that I could see in their training. So I had learned from my own example that if they exercised to build muscle, but they weren't eating to build muscle, no new muscle would be built. So I realized that nutrition had to be paired with training if I was going to get the best results out of my training. So that pushed me to start learning a lot more about it. So I started reading more, about that time was when internet became more readily available. So yes, that makes me sound really old. But when I first started training, it was like 16 years old with weights, and we had just got dial-up internet at my house. And I remember to download a 20-minute video from RX Muscle's Iron Asylum, where they would interview bodybuilders. It was a 20-minute video, and it'd take like 2 hours to download that dang thing. But I would watch it. Then I'd go home in my parents' basement. I'd go down in my parents' basement and try to mimic everything I learned in those videos. Then, as internet got like faster, and as I got into college, like freshman year of college, I started downloading and listening to a lot more stuff about nutrition, and it helped me get better and better results from my clients that I was doing the training with. So I had decided to go to school for a teaching degree, because when I was growing up in a little rural area of Pennsylvania, personal training was not thought of as a career. So when you went and talked to the guidance counselors about what you wanted to go to college for, personal training was nowhere, absolutely nowhere on the spectrum of what would be considered a career or a future. Now, it doesn't mean that there is no future there. Of course, I hope there is, because that's what I do. But it was just, we grew up in the middle of nowhere. So my graduating class was 60-some people, and nobody really invested into that stuff, and we never really thought much about it or knew anything about it. So I went into teaching, and I figured, okay, well, if I love health and fitness, I can be a phys ed teacher. So the great thing about that was I learned a lot of teaching skills on how I could better, as I just stumbled through that statement, how I could better communicate exercise and nutrition to my clients. So it was very helpful to learn the different ways that people learn and different ways to teach it, have patience in teaching, which was a huge lesson, because I was very aggressive by nature. Just I thought everybody wanted it, and they wanted to work really hard, and they wanted it right now. So it taught me a lot about patience and other things. But there was a lot of benefit to taking the time to learn teaching skills. So then when I went into a master's program, I decided to go into a master's in nutrition because I didn't like all the crap behind being a teacher. So I enjoyed being a teacher in regards to the time I got to spend with the kids, but I didn't like anything else about it. So I decided that I still wanted to learn more about nutrition, so I went ahead and did a master's in nutrition. However, what I learned was that a master's in nutrition teaches you absolutely nothing about aesthetic nutrition and performance nutrition. So a master's of nutrition, which I have, so I'm kind of talking down on my own degree, it teaches you everything you'd want to know about health nutrition. So what you need to eat to have certain blood work, things like that. You maybe learn how to run public school cafeterias and things like balance my food plate or my food pyramid, whatever it is nowadays. But that's what you learned. You didn't learn anything about aesthetic nutrition, how to eat to look a certain way. You didn't learn anything about performance nutrition, how to eat to perform a certain way. So we had one 3-credit class that was about sport performance, and it was only about aerobic sports, like running. There was no knowledge about anaerobic sports. That degree, it sounds great on paper, but it really didn't teach anything about aesthetic and performance nutrition, and there actually is no degree for that. I actually had 2 of my professors as clients before I graduated with my master's degree because they didn't know nutrition based on aesthetic and performance. So what that taught me is that what I knew given the background that I had developed, the knowledge I had with exercise, the knowledge I had developed with nutrition, and combined that with teaching skills, that made me a very rare asset when it came to being a trainer. So those three things in combination already made me above average as the trainers that I saw around. So they might have great exercise knowledge, but they had horrible nutrition knowledge. And what they told people either didn't work, flat out didn't work. It only worked for them, so it didn't work for most of their clients. Or they just told them bull crap that was wrong because they just wanted to get fast results, but didn't care about their long-term health. Also, there were trainers who knew a lot about exercise, but they were horrible teachers. They assumed just because they could do it within 3 or 4 reps, why couldn't their clients? So having the combination of knowing exercise, knowing aesthetic and performance nutrition, and having teaching skills or teaching knowledge was a great combination for me. And that allowed me to start to grow Brutal Iron Gym at a very fast rate. So when I started the gym in 2011, I was training 50 hours of client work in person. So 50 hours face-to-face with clients, and then I was still writing their training plan, nutrition plans, and everything else. And what allowed it to grow was that I was able to get better results than the local trainers. And that helped me grow my business fast and make it more sustainable over the long term. So think to yourself is, what have you grown on in your knowledge other than just exercise? So have you taken the time to know more about nutrition? Have you ever downloaded a video or watched something on YouTube about teaching? So when I host interns at our gym, and when I used to teach at the university level, one of the things I would share with the students all the time was body language. So like how they should use their hands when they talk, to never point, to never have their palms facing down. So it actually makes you much more friendly in conversation to have your palms facing up and to use the words we rather than you and I. So there is a lot that goes into communication other than just knowing what exercises work what muscles. So as I continued to grow in the business, I needed to pay bills, so I accepted all challenges. So if somebody came to me and they said, hey, my son wants to get a scholarship for shot put. Do you know how to train that? In my mind, I was like, yeah, I know how to make people explosive. I know how to build muscles. I'll figure it out. So I agreed. Now, I was always honest with them. I told them that I had no history with that, but I could figure it out. And I was lucky enough that the people trusted in me at first. So as I continued to get more and more clients, I was able to build kind of my variety of clients, and especially in sports, that I was able to work with. So some other things that came up for me was overcoming injuries. So as I've had an injury or an annoyance in my own training, I took the time to learn how to address it. So I actually went to a physical therapist and asked him to see or get a picture of all of the books he had when he went to college. And I bought an enormous amount of them. I forget exactly how many. I think almost like 10 books. And I read through them all because I wanted to know what he knew. So if he knew how to fix me, I wanted to know how to fix me. So that way, if I had clients who had injuries or small issues, now granted, I didn't want to be outside of my depth. If it was a big issue and I really didn't know how to address it, I would always pass them on to the personal trainer or somebody else who would be certified in that knowledge. But if somebody just had a small little annoyance that I could address in 5 minutes and then we could get about our training session, I wanted to know that stuff. So I took the time to look at the books, to read the research, to do everything, to experiment. I remember one time I did 2 hours of kind of self-therapy work every single day for 30 days in a row. So I did 60 hours of experimenting in 1 month just so I could learn more about certain types of stretching and different types of therapies with lacrosse balls and bands and stuff like that. So what I was willing to do was to take the time to dive into different areas that came up in conversation with my clients. So your clients will actually lead you in the direction of what should be a new skill for you. So in what way should you expand your knowledge? Listen to your clients. What questions are they asking you? What professionals in other fields and other areas do they mention having to go into? So if you have a client who had some kind of thing that was bugging them in their shoulder, and they tell you they've been seeing a physical therapist for a couple weeks or 2 or 3 months and doesn't seem to be getting better, go read more about that. Go find videos on YouTube. Go experiment on your own. try to increase your knowledge to where you can help your clients in those other areas. Now, comes with kind of like a warning in the sense that you shouldn't expand or step beyond your means. So, for example, I don't know how to pop people's bones back in place. So if somebody's, back is bugging them or something's bugging them with their hip or like they have a rib out of place in their upper back, I will not put them on a table and try to push a bone back in place because I have no freaking clue in what direction or how much pressure to do. So you can read a book about that, but if I don't have the hands-on experience that I was never taught in school or whatever their certification would be to learn those skills, if I don't have that experience, I'm not going to go ahead and experiment on my clients. So you have to kind of try this stuff on your own. Okay, you can communicate with a client and let them know if they're the first client. Maybe you have a client who wants to do an aesthetic competition. So they want to do bikini, fitness, figure, physique, any of that kind of stuff. If you've never done it before, that's fine. Be open with them. Tell them that you have never done it before. But chances are you know more than they do. So you can probably still help them in some way. So that helps to kind of expand your knowledge and try to grow in more ways. So that helped me a lot over the years. So I've taken clients to aesthetic competitions, powerlifting competitions, CrossFit competitions, strongman competitions. So I've actually gotten to do very high level, national level type competitions that way. And it was just like talking to the person, telling them what I knew at that moment, but then showing them what I could learn. So I was able to communicate with them, show them more of knowledge, develop their programs, get them results to the point where they wouldn't want to go with somebody else because everything I was telling them, everything I was showing them was working. So I would take the time to dive into the information and learn as much as I possibly could. So I was never afraid to admit that I didn't know anything. I would just answer, I don't know yet. So I'd tell them I don't know, but I'll get you the answer. And I would do that all the time if there was something that was new. So I never wanted to lie to a client because they always comes back around. You're going to say something that you're going to, either have to eat crow later on, or they're going to find out that you were lying or you made it up and then never to come back and trust you again. So it's always better to admit maybe that you're still learning something, but don't be afraid to go out and learn it. So that would be an encouragement that I would have given the time that you may have now. You may have extra time because you have less client work in person. However, you may be kind of like slammed with time and super busy because you're either taking on another job to make ends meet, or maybe you are just busy in some other way. Well, if you are ultra busy, it's still important to expand your knowledge. So whether you have a bunch of free time on your hands or you're super insanely busy, how are you going to improve your future? So if you're busy managing the now, how are you going to take care of tomorrow? So if you focus only in on today, you're only going to make it through today. Then you're going to struggle with tomorrow. So find time, okay? Be better with time management. Be better with energy management. Find a way, just 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day, to watch videos, to read books, to find other resources that are out there for different areas of information. So we've done a podcast about that in terms of like different types of knowledge resources that are available. And that's podcast 457, so 457, titled Programming Knowledge Resources. And we actually talk about resources you can look up for injury rehab, for nutrition, for areas other than just training alone. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is to challenge yourself to learn a new skill, to grow in a new area of knowledge. If you want to better help your clients, listen to what they ask. Seek out to find the answers for what they're trying to find. Find it first, teach it to them, and you increase your value. So whatever it is that comes up, learn more about it. If you need help, we can obviously help with that. So we have the past podcasts I've already mentioned, but if you want to email us, you can always tell us about what you're struggling with or what you want to learn more about. So we can definitely help you with just increasing your depth of knowledge in regards to training. We can help you with nutrition. So like I said, I have a master's in nutrition, and when I used to teach at the university, we actually used to develop, we took our weight training classes and actually used them as personal training and development classes. So every student would leave knowing how to write a training plan and a nutrition plan for fat loss, for sport performance, and for muscle building. So they ended every single semester with the knowledge for that, regardless of what their goals were. So we have the information and the knowledge to teach you that stuff as well. We can also help with lifestyle management. So if you want to learn how to better manage your time and energy, whether it's for your own benefit or for clients, if they always say, I never have the time, I never have the time, and you can never get them to adhere to what program you're writing, let us know. Email us, and we'll help you figure out how to better help them with time management. So we do offer services regarded to such as a ghost writing service. So let me look up the podcast for that. So what ghost writing is where we will help you silently write the programming for your client. So if you're struggling with a client, let us know. We'll help write the template, whether it's nutrition or training. We'll teach it to you why we would write it that way. Then you can teach it to your client. They never knew we're involved. But this is a great way for you to learn on how to do things, quote unquote, the right way or the most efficient and most safe way, but not have to give up that client. Okay? So that's podcast 525 to learn about ghost writing services for nutrition clients, and podcast 513 to learn about ghost writing services for training clients. So that's another service we offer. So anything you need help with, whether it's injury rehab, like we said, we have tons of resources for that. If you want to learn more about how to mix goals. So I help clients who have multiple goals all the time, whether it's injury rehab while doing powerlifting, or injury rehab while doing an aesthetic competition. Or I have people who mix aesthetic competitions and powerlifting. I even have a person right now I'm helping do, we're getting him ready for arm wrestling competitions while doing powerlifting. So you can definitely have mixed goals. So if you're struggling with how to get a client to combine those two goals, whatever the two goals might be, again, you can reach out and we'll help. So the whole point of this podcast, hopefully you're still paying attention at 21 minutes and 45 seconds into it, is to encourage you to go ahead and take this opportunity to expand your knowledge. The greater width of services that you can provide to a client, the greater value you have. So take this as an opportunity to be almost like a forced challenge on yourself, a forced learning opportunity to expand on what services you can provide. And whenever all this craziness calms down and life gets back to normal, you'll still have this improvement that you've made at this time to continue to grow you as a business later on. So don't use this time just to survive. Grow, flourish right now, so that way when things get back to normal, you'll be even better off. Okay? So if you need any help in any way, our email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. Just let us know what you need help with, and I promise we'll get you the help. Okay? So if you do like the podcast, thank you for listening to it, and please share it with any friends and family that you think might be interested. Whether it's this episode or you have a nutrition one or a training one that's your favorite, just the more people we share it with, the happier the world will be. Also, if you do like this information, you can always find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter on our social media accounts under the name Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. So the podcast is designed and intended to be for you, the listener. So if there's anything you want to learn about, please let us know, and we'll make sure we cover it in the podcast. You can tell us what you want to learn more about at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.